G'day everyone. If you're a new viewer, thanks very much for watching. We are starting our very first, podcast, which I've, with very little consultation to Simon here, called Classic Prattle, which we're just going to prattle on about cars in general. Right? Don't like it?
Oh, it'll do.
Yeah. But hey, if you guys got something better, please let us know.
It could be the Laurel and Hardy, Morecambe and Wise.
Could.
Abbott Costello.
Yeah, well, let us know what you think. So, my name's Marc. I'm from the YouTube channel Marc and Cars. A few of you have come through the Instagram feed will be pretty familiar with me. Simon?
I'm Simon McGrath. I'm the Classic Car Dude. And I've been doing videos for Classic Cars and Coffee at UWA in West Australia.
Fantastic. Make sure you subscribe to his channel, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Very importantly, we'd have to thank today's sponsor, Penfolds, Max's. Okay, it's a Cabernet Sauvignon. How was it, Simon?
It was very nice.
I actually got it for my birthday.
Well, cheers to your birthday.
Oh, thank you.
We're in it's very velvety.
Just for we've actually got Porsche 356 glasses that were provided to us from the Porsche registry.
How tragic, isn't it? Pathetic. So we're drinking a Max's. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon, South Australian 2018. If you were interested, what's that behind us?
Oh, we talking about the pictures, the car.
Oh no, the big red thing.
Yeah, okay.
The blister.
Look, a lot of the viewers of my channel will be pretty familiar
Absolutely.
with the my 356B 1960. It's pride place here in the garage. You can see all the garage art. It's very 356 themed. Do expect some very higher volume of content coming out of this mouth with regards to 356s and Porsches in general. Simon's going to be the balancing act of me.
I'm I'm the automotive slut,
yeah, okay.
so to speak. I've got a tragic history that dates back since I was 17. My first car at high school was a Mark III Austin Healey Sprite. And since then it's been downhill ever since.
That's a lot of push starts.
Oh man, running out of petrol?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Rebuilding engines in your driveway, pulling out gearboxes with no one to help you.
Yeah, look, I don't think a lot of the modern people, young guys, are doing that in their Subaru WRXs anymore, Simon.
That's an interesting question. Obviously the tech quotient of doing anything like that has gone through the roof.
Of course it is, you know.
And there are guys out there that, my mate Jeff Ash, you know Jeff, he's on the door at Classic Cars.
Sure.
Well, man, he's doing a huge amount of stuff.
Yep.
At his workshop, the place where he works, and he does get very involved. But I don't know if he's the norm, or he's the extraordinary one.
Sure. Well, look, if anyone who's young enough to say under the age of 30, who you guys working on your cars in your driveway like we used to.
Tell me some of the insane things you've tackled that you probably shouldn't have tackled as a junior apprentice mechanic, as a novice mechanic.
Yeah, sure. Like one of the a good friend of mine who I grew up with, who I'm still very tight with. I grew up in Geelong, so very car focused town.
Go Cats.
Yeah, go Cats. We pretty much tampered with anything. Like a lot of, the Kent motor, Escort, 14 motors. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with those things, just because they're very affordable cars, bordering on disposable if your motor stops working and you can't fix it, you go to the wrecker and get one for $80 concept, so that type of thing, especially the pre-cross flow ones where you burn your hands trying to get the spark plugs out of the exhaust manifold. But that aside, overall, that type of thing, pulling motors in and out. Yeah. I was fortunate my old man was a mechanic, so we had all the tools at home, so I didn't do driveway stuff, I did in-garage stuff. We had a kit and all that sort of thing, which is pretty convenient.
Luxury.
And we put big motors in little cars was a big thing that we liked.
Oh, right. Yeah. What was that? What did you do?
Next door neighbour had like maybe a TC or a TD Cortina, the earlier shapes, right? Put a 289 Windsor motor in one of those things.
Sweet.
Yeah, that was hard work. That wasn't supposed to go in there, clearly.
Yeah.
Had a later generation on a
Ford had already made that decision.
Later car had a KA laser, right? The very first shape laser.
You can swear one.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a sympathiser, actually, had two of them. And I put a 2-litre motor out of a Telstar /626.
All right.
They originally, the biggest motor you could get back then was 1.6.
Yeah.
So it went from realistically about 100 horsepower to about 220 horsepower with no suspension change or gearbox changes. The thing was deadly, you know. it was a lot of fun, you know, when you're 20 years. Yeah, that's right, front wheel drive. Yeah, as soon as you floor it, that mum's going to a straight line. This is before the days of front wheel drive limited slip diff, of course, you know. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a sort of garagey type stuff that I didn't mind tampering with. Well, that motor actually fitted in like a glove.
Wow, interesting.
Yep.
Well, I never had a pit. My parents and I owned a wholesale nursery in Canning Vale.
Sure.
So we had a carport. And, I remember, fortunately I had some really great mates who, one of them did own a garage he owned the Gull Como.
Okay, great.
And so Jerry Drysdale and John Bailey were great mates. And we did seriously nuts things. I can remember an Austin Healey 100 that at the drags we'd sheared a lay gear.
Okay.
So which is has like 4 gears on it.
Sure.
And so we knocked like 3 teeth off the damn thing. So nothing. Let's pull it out and let's pull this gearbox apart.
And it's always a great idea. Gearbox.
Gearbox. And I'm going. Anyway, we did it. We got it all back together, and it went. It was fantastic. So I managed, buy another lay gear and put it all back together. Another really
probably cost you all of $15 too.
Probably did. Yeah. Another really stupid thing that I endeavoured through ignorance was to. I had a HT Holden Ute. I was surfing at the time. It was a great vehicle for that. And we pulled the windscreen out of it and did a rust repair.
Sure.
And then tried to put the same windscreen back in with the same rubbers and all the black goo and the bits of string.
Yeah.
And then, I should have, whatever it cost, I should have got someone to do it. And black.
Isn't it amazing how, if you ever watch those videos of the when they manufacture cars on the assembly lines and drop the windscreens in, bang,
it's so easy.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's just not fair.
Yeah, look, I'm sure whoever does anything 500 times a day gets good at it.
They reckon you haven't lived until you've pulled an engine out on your own driveway.
Yeah.
It's like a rite of passage for Australian males.
All ladies.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, just a little less common, I would say.
So we've got a bit distracted from the intent of today's
that'll happen.
podcast. So let's I've got a few notes here we're going to talk about. You know what?
Go on.
I would like to talk about classic cars and coffee, the last one of the year. Firstly,
I'll dive in.
I did a video of it, so I'm going to link it below if you're watching the video. If you haven't, I'll try and attach it to the podcast somehow. It's not a long video, but I've tried to highlight it. Look, admittedly, again, it's a bit sympathetic to the Porsche brand, but I have got some other cars in there you might find that you like. What was the best car you saw there?
Oh, best car I saw there. I said earlier I confessed to being an automotive slut, right? Mm-hmm. So I like the weird stuff that you don't see. In fact, I'm a very jaundiced spectator of the supercars that rock up. So, you get the Lambos and all those things, and I kind of go, I don't know what they are for a start, and they all look the same.
Yep.
And I kind of go, for me, that's a checkbook classic car motoring.
Sure. Yep.
Not true enthusiast stuff, but that's getting really highbrow. There was a gold Bristol. It was previously a...
was it the same car as the Celebration of the Automobile?
Yeah, and it's the car that was owned by Malaysian, some royalty in Malaysia, and then this family bought it out of, he's got 300 cars in the garage sort of thing. But it's just a fabulous, quirky, English oddball car with a dirty grey Chrysler V8 stuck in the middle of it, and I go, I like that. And I like its rarity, its oddness, let's say. Eccentricity.
Sure. Now, that car itself, this whole podcast isn't for me to plug my video channel, but I will say, when I did the Celebration of the Motor Car video, I actually highlighted this car that Simon was talking about. I didn't see it at Classic Cars and Coffee, but I know the car from that event. And look, I'll be straight up, I'm not a massive fan of the Pommy car, right? There's very few of them that come through. I thought, one day I'd like to own one, right? And this car, it was breathtaking. The colour is, you say it's gold, it's almost like a goldy, bronzy, platinum type thing. It's an amazing colour, right? And look, I'd love to know what Bristol called it.
Yeah.
The name of the car.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's got a fantastic name, especially of the era. Look, I don't know what year the car was, but I'm guessing around first half of the 60s.
63, 65,
sure,
that sort of period.
Yeah, it sounded like that sort of era V8, like it sounded like an old pushrod thing. It'd be
it is. It's a Chrysler 390 or something.
Yeah, okay, so a big dog with a 2-speed auto or something, is it?
Probably 2-speed auto.
Yeah, okay, sure.
But the interior of it is
stunning. The whole car's stunning. You know, like it's
gorgeous.
It looks like it should have been at like Villa d'Este in Como or something. It's that type of car. Like it wouldn't look out of place parked next to a golden Mercedes. That's the type of style this car's got, in my opinion. You know?
So I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Also, you mentioned little pommy Fords and stuff like that. I get very excited when a little Mark 1 Escort comes in with some big spotties on the front, or a Mark 2. I love all that stuff. And have you seen Ruben's 59 oval window Beetle?
The green one?
I think that car is exquisite.
Ruben, you're probably going to watch this.
I think
it's got to have a close look at that car.
It's exquisite. It's got that huge engine in it, and you can get me some stats on its time. It's fast.
And it's a stunningly finished car. The car he's talking about.
Detail.
It's incredible. Like, look, I don't know if Ruben's got a life outside of cleaning his car, but I'm telling you, it is
tragic. Ruben.
It'd have to be the best Beetle I've ever seen.
Yeah, I love it.
That's driven. I'm talking about, not a show car.
And I much prefer that's like that. It's not SoCal, but there's that. I can't think of the name, the term for it, where old cars are sympathetically modified.
Almost Redstone mod.
Yeah, Redstone mod. That sort of thing. And for me, that car, there's a fine line. You go too far, and it's kind of like you try hard, or it looks kind of gaudy, for want of a better word. He's got the taste.
Balance is perfect, isn't it?
Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, and the colour is amazing.
Yeah, like a champagne green.
Yeah, stunning car.
So that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sure. I'd have to say, look, for me, the car of the whole event, we sort of just brushed on it. It was the classic Cars and Coffee event that was held on the 27th of December. It's only like a 2-hour event, about once a month.
Yeah, it's once a month.
Mm-hmm. And Paul and Derek and his whole team of volunteers there, they do a fantastic job, and you do get a pretty good change over cars. We're not seeing the same cars every month when we go.
I'm shocked, because what's it been going for a couple of years now, and still new stuff comes out of the woodwork.
It's fantastic.
And only recently a couple of cars turned up and go, where has that been? Extraordinary stuff.
Yeah. But Ruben's Beetle, easily top 5 for me of the event. There was a purple XB Falcon coupe with a white leather interior. Okay,
that's what I would expect.
Stunning, right? The car was beautiful, and it looked as stock as you could get the day it rolled off the showroom floor. In fact, I think it was a Fairmont, not a Falcon, and it was beautiful, right? The other car I really liked was there's a Lancia Delta Integrale, which an HF, which. I love that stuff. That rally era for when the Italians could build cars that could finish an event. It was fantastic. Yeah,
sensational.
Yeah. Look, I won't talk about all the Porsches that were there because there's quite a lot, as there always is. You mentioned the Tommy cars earlier. There was a Lotus Escort there, which you just don't see many Lotus Escorts anymore. Those BDA motors are like gold plated just about, so that's expensive.
Mark 1 Escort or Mark 2?
Yep.
Mark 1. A 1600. That's actually a Kent motor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with a big head on it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. They're the very early.
Oh, I love
latest
them. And the lightness to them.
Mm-hmm.
I remember as a kid, I was 17, used to work for Linus Motors. Sure. And I got to take home the silver chain nursing cars as my car. Sure. So I could drive that thing, this is what they were like, and never use the clutch. So I'd use the clutch to start off. And from that point forward, you just get the rev right, bang through the revs with no clutch. Yeah. And that was highly entertaining for me.
For those of you who haven't seen these cars before, and look, in all honesty, most viewers or listeners to this podcast are probably of a comparable vintage to ourselves, right? So they're very familiar with these cars.
So this is 72, 73 model Escorts.
Yep, and the Lotus Motors actually had a muffler on the intake because of how loud those Webers were.
What?
Yeah, so it's an amazing thing to see. Like, not many cars you see a muffler on the intake of the car because of the noise so they comply from the street cars when they build them,
Very interesting.
So, it's a great, very odd, like you said. And I also like this very unique stuff that you don't see. And don't get me wrong, I love a good-looking Mustang, right?
I'm the same.
There's just a lot buy them. You know, so when you see something very different.
Interesting with Mustangs, there's a lot of bad ones. There's a lot of cars where the trim doesn't match up, and I look down the side of them.
That's actually how that.
That's the factory that's going. And I look down the side and I'm going, well, that's like a hungry horse, you know. Like this, but when you see one that's like absolutely right, preferably a fastback rather than a notchback, I'm going, oh, that is a beautiful car.
Yeah, sure.
I tell you, sorry, what really turns me on too, there's about 3 or 4 of them that turn up. Those BMW 3-litre CSIs, the CS.
What a car.
I know.
How beautiful.
When the windows are down.
Yeah, pedalless, the whole.
Exactly the right amount of chrome and polished aluminium on them. Not too much, not too little. And the wood grain inside, that is an exquisite car.
Similar style car, which is sort of
It's a Kia.
Yeah. Similar style car that's really, I feel like I'm seeing more of lately, is the P1800 Volvo.
Oh, man.
There must be 3 or 4 of them turned up on the 27th. Like, I would have only been a month ago. I went down south to see a mate who's got a 356 who's down in Bridgetown. He's also restoring a P1800. Same colour as this. Okay, it's a beautiful car. P1800s are magnificent looking cars, right?
They are. Now, you know, I'm a rear-wheel drive Volvo tragic, and I've got a bit of a problem with P1800s. There were 2 cars around at the same time. And one of them was the Amazon, which I think is an exquisitely designed, and the shape is just gorgeous. Okay, so they look like they're sort of dumpy. They've got a very high waistline, doors that are sort of rounded. The 2 doors, the prettiest of them. And they also make a station wagon. Have you seen the VO? It's a Volvo station wagon.
I have, yeah.
It's very sexy. Anyway, I love them for their curves. Okay, so the P1800. Beautiful design in terms of its body, and the original car should have had a V8 in it, and that was what Volvo were heading.
Okay.
However, it didn't work out, and at that stage they were looking at getting the 289 and putting the 289 in it, but for whatever reason it all went off the rails, and Volvo ended up with the normal B series engine, which is a mighty engine, but not what could have been a supercar.
Became more show than
it's more of a hairdresser's car.
Sure.
And so
good looking hairdressers.
Nothing against hairdressers. We love hairdressers. So,
don't use it.
And so, you know, I go, and they've doubled or tripled in value in the last, say, 4 or 5 years. Gone ballistic. Nothing to pay 70 grand for one of those now that would have sold for 25 not very long ago.
Look, when you look at the shape of the car, if those of you who don't know the car we're talking about, it's the car that was originally used in the Saint TV show.
Yeah.
Again, if you're not familiar, just Google it. Volvo P1800 cracker.
Pretty. Nice,
very
thin,
stunning.
Yeah.
But I can tell you why they're 70 grand.
What's that?
Imagine how much those things would cost to restore. That panel work,
huge.
It would be excruciating under hours involved, right?
Yeah.
So, honestly, if you get one you need to restore it, you're going to need 70 grand if you bought it for 25.
So, look, if I'm slapping down 70 grand on the table,
yes,
I'm expecting a level of performance that's consonant to it.
Yeah, but that's not the P1800.
No, that's definitely not. That's my point.
Mm-hmm.
And there are, you know, if you've got 70 grand, there are lots of options, plenty of options.
Let's talk about cars that you can buy for a price point in another podcast. Because are going to be a great conversation, right? And what we'll do is we'll both do some homework and come back with cars that are on the market with a set budget and why we'd spend our money on those ones. So let's come back to that topic. At the Classic Cars and Coffee, the event prior to that was Celebration of the Motor Car, which really, whilst not a formal concourse event here in WA, is realistically our premier classic car event. It is an invitation-only event.
Invitation-only.
It is, right. And the Paul, the organiser, who also organises the Classic Cars and Coffee event, outstanding job. It'd have to be it's like the equivalent of our Amelia Island or Pebble Beach, right? It's great location, all that sort of thing. Cars that turned up to that you haven't seen before. Like I know you've been to quite a few celebrations across the years.
Yeah, I do the auction every year for charity.
Sure.
Did you see the orange Maserati Marc? Oh,
like that?
Breathtaking. In fact, that was my car of the show.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. That was
you already see what mine is.
Single most tasteful. The colour was perfect. You know, with all tones of colour, you can go too far one way. It's either too much or it's too little. This was perfection. And the quality restoration.
Good-looking cars.
Good-looking cars.
Great-looking cars.
That's a Giugiaro, early Giugiaro design.
Yep, I'm very familiar with the car.
Yeah, gorgeous.
The for me, Alpha SZ.
Oh, I love the Le Monstre.
Yeah,
I've almost bought a couple.
Slab-sided. You've got to have, look, if you haven't seen one, you've got to Google it because it is a cracker of a car. It's
Il Mostro.
stunning car just for shock value of nothing else. Look, I've never driven one. And I've driven a lot of Alphas, right? Not going to tell you. I would love to get hold of it. Of all the Alphas I could own, outside of P330 Stradale, like everyone else, right?
Well, it's a GT6 underneath.
Yeah, sure.
The Busso.
Yeah, the Busso motor.
3 litre.
Great driving motor, right? But
sound.
yeah, but the styling on the car, it is just such a cracker 80s car, isn't it?
I'm trying to think who the designer was. I do know. I've come close to buying them twice.
Really?
Out of Japan.
Yeah, okay.
And when I was...
I think there's about 2 or 3 in Perth.
Yeah, I know of one in Perth. When I was looking at them, I could have landed one in Western Australia for about 40 grand.
Sure.
It's about half what they're worth today.
Yeah, I wouldn't know what they're worth.
Yeah,
but anyway,
that
that was my car to show. And there were some crackers there. I just want to backpedal a bit. You know, you mentioned supercars earlier.
Yeah.
How...
I find them a big yawn.
Yeah, sure, right. I don't really... I would
if anybody wants to give me one, I'll have one.
Look, I'm sure they're amazing driving cars, right? But I'm going to throw rocks here at Glasshouse, okay?
Okay.
I don't think they belong to classic cars and coffee.
Ooh. That's an interesting thought because they're contemporary modern cars.
They're not classic yet.
Yeah, they're contemporary
Look,
modern.
there are limited editions, special models, blah, 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 but you know what every supercar is now.
Yeah.
You don't go and, if you've got $500,000 to spend on a motor car and you go and buy it, inevitably it'll be a special model. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, it should be. It's $500,000 motor car, right?
Yeah.
But should they be at classic cars and coffee? I don't believe so. Now, but in saying that, where do I think you draw the line?
Oh, that's an imaginary line. It's impossible.
Well, you put you're going to upset people, let's face it, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to alienate people, and they do draw a younger crowd, right? Those supercars.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I love looking at them, okay? I do think the styling, the fact that people build them and buy them.
That is amazing, the fact that they're built today.
Yeah, I love it, right? I love
Yeah.
it. Look, I'm not a big McLaren fan. I don't like styling cars. I don't think they make pretty cars, right? But I love the fact they build cars that cost upwards of nearly $1 million, right? And people are willing to go out there and buy them. Especially, I've seen under the hood of one how poorly put together they are, that people are still willing to do that. Okay? So, but all that aside, you know, the fact they build them, I think that could be reason enough to bring the classic cars and coffee, so they bring a younger generation enthusiast in. But on the fact that they're there, right? A lot of people, I've got that thing. I'm probably the youngest 356 owner most people will ever meet, with a couple of exceptions. Don't get me wrong, but as an enthusiast, most 356 owners are a good 10 to 15 years older than me. Okay?
Yeah.
People say these are out of reach for young people now. That's why I'm a young enthusiast, right?
Yeah.
You're not buying a supercar for this money. You know what I mean? You could buy 5 of these things for what a supercar costs today. Okay, so the argument of it being an aspirational vehicle, classics are getting too far away from young people, I don't hold the argument. I'm saying that's why young people, they attract young people.
I think it's hype, it's media, it's the
media,
YouTube, it's,
sure.
You know, you've got Supercar Blondie and you've got Hoovies, he's just bought 2 Lamborghinis, a Countach and Diablo. But I dig that guy because he's so eccentric and so passionate and honest about his addiction. You know, that I did. But, you know, like I'll say again, for me they're a big yawn when they rock up. And
I get it.
Yeah. And there's a guy. He's got I think it's a Lamborghini.
Just one guy.
It's hard to tell what it is because it's sort of, you know, nondescript. Like
a Ferrari-Gini, yeah.
A Ferrari-Gini.
Yeah.
Anyway, and whenever I'm trying to do some filming at Classic Cars, he's revving that down.
He's photobombing you, is he?
Oh, no, please. And then he goes, and when he leaves, it's, you know...
Everybody knows he's leaving.
It's 12,000 revs in first gear.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Sure. Like a flat plane V8.
Yeah, well, I like a flat plane. Actually, you know, you look at the flat plane cars, that TVR, the
Griffith?
They made the 6-cylinder.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Flat crank.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard one of those?
I haven't.
Oh!
What's the guy who lives up, he's going to watch this.
Hope so.
He's got the...
See how many people we can offend.
He's got a 6-cylinder TVR. They use that Marc 1 Cortina taillight in it. What's that car?
There's a
TVR. Cortina.
There's TVR with a Marc 1 Cortina. That's called the Grand Tourer.
Yeah, sure.
Which is little slabs, and then they made the Tuscan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, geez.
The
Griffin was the first one with the 289 V8 from memory.
I reckon it's got a 6 in it. I reckon this car's got a 6 in it.
Okay, so if it's a contemporary one, they make a 6.
Oh, no,
they did make
this thing is built in the late 70s, early 80s.
Okay, I don't know what that is. That might even be a V6, which is the, I think, Tuscan.
You know who you are.
Somebody will tell us.
Yeah, come on, can you?
Anyway, you're not my favourite, a little too wedgy, a little uncoordinated.
I'll tell you a great TBR story, just while we're talking about TBRs. My wife and I were in a little village called Prattle alla Stelvio, in the foot of the Stelvio Pass. Okay. The Stelvio Pass, everyone's seen it, goes like this, 48 hairpins up the mountain, right? Been fortunate enough to have been up a number of times, right? And
push bike?
Yeah, would have cycled up it 40, 50 times, I think. Right, just so I used to work as a cycle tour guide, that type of thing, so I used to take my tour or something. The one morning, we had the British TBR club turn up and rendezvous with the Russian TBR club, and there must have been 80 of the things. All chimeras, griffins, everything, right? And you should have heard, in this tiny little village, the house is built right on the edge of the road, and the echoing through the village of these cars, and they boom straight up the valley, you know what I mean?
Sensation.
They don't experience on this road because of the hairpins, you can only sort of go so far, but the first hairpin is it's about 8 kilometres up the climb, so you can really wring the neck out of your car going up Stelvio. But yeah, seeing this many TBRs, like, I can't believe there's that many that are running at that one moment in time in the world.
It was a mirage.
Yeah, but it sounded magnificent, all those V8s. You know, it was
and the stroke, like I said, I think the stroke 6 is the peak. It's just a howling, it's like a wounded animal in the jungle, you know? Just sensational.
Yep.
Actually, can we just go back to classic cars and coffee? There's something that I've always felt, and it's an observation.
Sure.
And the observation is, when I go to classic cars and coffee, I see people talking. And I reckon classic cars and coffee is a fantastic contributor to men's mental health. I really do.
It's a great point.
So many blokes look forward to that 2 hours on a Sunday morning, and they get there early and they leave late, and the whole time they're chatting to their mates about stuff. And that is a good thing. I reckon that's a massive contribution towards the mental health of lots of blokes, old and young. And there's plenty of girls come along too, and dogs and kids, and it's sensational. Anyway, that's my observation.
On that point, right, I'm going to carry on with this point. I recently had a landmark birthday, okay? You know, one of those ones you pass.
70.
And in preparation for that event, my wife and I sat down. She said, "Would you like a party?" I said, "No, I wouldn't. I'd like to have a dinner with friends and family, that type of thing." And she said, "Well, write down a list of people you'd like to invite." And as a man growing up, not invited, as a man growing up, family, work, commitments, that type of thing, you grow apart from the people you spend a lot of time with, right?
Very much so.
And this point that you brought up about men's mental health, there aren't a lot, like, in my father's generation, I'm sure it would have been the same for you. After work, go to the pub, have a couple of beers with your mates, whinge about the boss, chuck some darts, exactly, right? Play some pool. Okay? That's not what we do.
No.
Our obligations are different. Now, don't get me wrong, they're not more, they're not less, because there are different obligations to our partners and wives now as well. They're expected to do some work, so we've got more in-house family obligations, they've got more working obligations. The balance and full output is still comparable, right? However, what it has caused for me, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of other men, I don't have a lot of social outlets where it's just me and the boys.
Very common. Very common. I've heard the same comment from other males. You see, there's an inherent thing. Women are much better networkers than men.
Sure.
My wife, as an example, is always catching up with girlfriends for coffees or wine, or they organise a book club thing. And I think if you were to look at the demographics of book clubs right across Australia, there would not be a lot of blokes in book clubs, but really it's a great chance for women to get together to chat. For me, classic cars and coffee is providing, kind of, yeah.
And it's like, realistically, I'm too young to go to a men's shed.
Oh, definitely.
Right?
I haven't got time for that.
It's a
One
for
day.
retirees. I agree.
One day.
And I look forward to it at that time of my
Yeah.
life. Don't get me wrong. Nothing wrong with mentions. I reckon they're a great idea. However, the classic cars of coffee, the point you brought up about mental health, those sorts of things, it is a perfect avenue. And if anything, a non-Marc specific
It's even
car
better.
social event.
And it's 2 hours.
Exactly. And so you bang it in, you're out,
Mate,
you're home,
it's
everyone's
spot
just out
on.
of bed.
It's because it's non-Marc specific. It's not like, and also it's almost dropped a bomb on the one Marc car days that they have. You know, that you go to and you sit there all day. And
Especially for the smaller marks as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you can, well, in the morning, 2 hours, if you can walk fast enough, you'll see 700-800 cars.
Mm-hmm.
All interesting, with eccentric and interesting people standing next to them. Yeah, it's good. I think it's a fantastic thing, and mainly for the social aspect.
Now, there is something I really wanted to talk about, but I've got to go and get it. So, in the meantime, Simon's going to do the work. I'll be back in a sec. Let's talk about something really entertaining.
Oh, well, let's talk about myself. No. Marc has his YouTube channel, and I have mine. And so this is Marc's brainchild that we get together and we shoot the breeze for a while. The next one we're going to hold, Marc's really anal. His garage is way too clean and way too organised. He's got white walls in his garage. How's that? And the floor's clean too. So, you know, he's got some serious issues. Talk about mental health. This guy's got big problems. Oops, he's back. And
Here it comes.
so I'm hoping we do the next one in my garage where you'll get to see my Yamaha 1968 Yamaha DT1 that's
Hang on,
just
wait,
beginning to
hang on,
scratch.
wait. Are you been talking? You think there's a problem with the OCD in my garage? Is that the problem right now?
Any of you said that?
Hey.
Breathe, Marc. Breathe. Okay.
Hey, whilst Simon and I really have, whilst we've known each other in passing the last 6 months to a year or so, had a good catch up, had a cup of coffee, what, a month ago, 2 months ago maybe?
Yeah.
Right, and
I paid.
he remembers.
Come on.
Yeah, I'm expecting an invoice there. Anyway, he had some old car magazines and me being a 356 sympathiser. He left this for me in his office. Anyway, I didn't get by to pick it up, so he gets one of his lackeys to drop it off to one of my shops, right?
Me. You're gone.
Did you drop it off?
Yeah, I dropped it off. Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks for
This Australian Sports Car World Quarterly, I'll hold up here, it says 356 on it, some kooky wedge white thing on there. This was printed January to March quarter 1982. Now the reason I raced off and got this, I should have well planned up, but I did anticipate to a mess. I want to talk about car magazines from 1982. That is a Marlboro ad, right?
Yeah.
We just don't see this stuff anymore.
No, it's
And
we've gone politically correct.
The editorial of this is just, this thing's unbelievable. This is like someone's made it, right? I just have a look at the thing. I'm telling you, it is like someone's written it as a university
Project. Eh?
project. That's what it's like. It is unbelievable. Like, they're describing a car in here as spunky. Now, when did you last hear the word spunky, Simon?
Well, spunky.
Hey, beside, look, we're not talking about the bedroom, right? I'm talking about our public, okay?
A lot. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has, hasn't it?
Yeah, it
And
has.
the magazine, it is a cracker. They've written an article on a guy that's built a three-wheeler car in his backyard, right?
Couldn't happen today.
What happened to us?
Yeah.
This magazine is the best car magazine I've read in 5 years.
I, as a kid, used to buy these. So I had a massive collection of sports car. Well, firstly, the Sports Car World, which I think was a fabulous magazine, and then it became Sports Car World Quarterly as basically sports cars died, in popularity. Muscle cars, Aussie muscle cars, and things, Paddlelands, and whatever came in. But there was a guy who used to write on the back page called Romsey Quince.
Okay.
And he would say, he was very witty. It was actually an acronym for, I think it was, I'm going to say Mel Nichols, but I don't think it was. It was another, somebody will tell us, it was another motoring journalist who wrote the Romsey Quince. Now, Romsey Quince put out a book, which I'd love to get my hands on, called Of Cars and Men. I'd kill for a copy of this book. Anyway, so he used to do things and say things like, Datsun 120Ys are like guinea pigs. They look great in the shop, but they stink when you get them home. And this was what this guy was like. Since great journalist, witty, daring in his journalism. I thought it was fantastic.
Another thing I want to talk about, this magazine was $2.50 when it came out, okay? Wouldn't have been a cheap magazine in the day. When you think about, I know in 1982, an XD Falcon retailed for about $8,500, family car, right?
Yeah.
Family car today close to $50,000.
Yeah, can be.
That's 4.5 times. Magazine today, what's that cost you? I haven't bought one in a long time.
If you
$10.
No, if you go and buy, like, let's say an Octane magazine, which is an English magazine, you'll pay $18, $19 over the counter for that.
Do you think that look, this is not a disrespectful term, the disposable magazine days are done?
Well,
because they're more coffee table books, the type of media that magazines are printed on today, which to a degree justifies expense. Like, I'd have a pile of 7 magazines on my bedside right now, you know? And
same.
every single one of them is a beautiful handcrafted piece of paper product, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And look, maybe they have to be because of the computer.
There's no question, you've got to make this a scintillating thing. It's like a box of chocolates, you know, you want to get the lid off it and have a look what's inside it. For me, that's, you know, a good car magazine can occupy a day.
And no one's interrupting me.
Stay away. I'm have a little bit of a Lotus fascination going on at the moment, so I've just subscribed to Absolute Lotus.
Sure.
And surprise, surprise, it's about Lotus.
Yeah. And it doesn't work.
And you all know the old joke, lots of trouble, usually serious. Anyway, so the whole the specific nature of that magazine is fantastic. So I started off, I just bought a Lotus XL. It's in the UK and it's going to come out in March. So more insanity.
We'll have a closer look at that.
More insanity if it gets it. Anyway, in that journey, I've discovered Lotus Evoras. I went for a ride on one the other day. Oh my God, what a car. So later on...
It might be, it's Porsche money, right, for Toyota quality.
No, they're not. They're like 50 grand will get you probably a 2011, 2010 car, and they look all as good as any Ferrari. They're beautiful.
More importantly, right, who could fit in the back?
Well, no one. But who wants passengers?
Mid-engine with the back seat.
A legless midget, maybe?
Look, again, the Evora, good argument for our car
very
to a
much
budget, right? So we will come back to this.
Yeah.
100%. The magazine, look, whilst the articles, they're well written, they're entertaining, they're definitely of the era, there is nothing better than the ads.
Oh, they're fantastic.
The ads in old magazines, like if you ever get the chance, you're in an op shop, see an old car magazine, just pick it up just to read the ads. Like, I was just going through this before, right? There's an ad here for a car alarm. Like, who has advertised for a car alarm ever, you know, in the last 20 years?
True.
There was another one here, I just saw it. Hang on, let me get back to it. Besides the fact you love being entertained by the price of cars that are marketed for sale. Hang on, what about it's 935?
Yeah.
Conversion kit for a Beetle. You've got to see.
Honestly, blink and you wouldn't know it was illegal. That close.
And I saw an ad in here. Oh, actually, firstly, the back third of the book magazine is just for models.
Yeah, interesting.
Scale models of sports cars, right? And that's TVR.
Yeah, Morgan.
Yeah, and
at the next.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Perth
Eureka.
I was a kid at high school. I lost it up.
Oh, amazing.
No longer.
Yeah. Okay.
At the next Classic Cars and Coffee, I was at a deceased estate. A friend of mine's family gave me all these boxes, so I'm going to have a huge amount of Octane English car magazine, early Australian motor magazine. Now we've already done this once. Every dollar we get goes all to men's mental health and prostate cancer. So I give the money to the Rotary Club who collect the money in the door. And I think the last one we raised $440 for prostate cancer.
Fantastic.
Anyway, so I'm going to have a bunch more there. We'll have a dressing table on the entrance. And
if you're in Perth or coming to Perth, I'll put in the notes below the podcast and also on the video the next Classic Cars and Coffee date as well and time, so that if you're visiting Perth for whatever reason and you finally got out of quarantine, we'll let you know where
come and infect some people.
Yeah, that's it.
Thousands.
Another topic I want to bring up. Why is the classic car market going the way it is right now?
Okay. Simple answer, demographics. The guys that used to lust after an XC1 or an A9X or a Falcon GT, whatever, and now 50, 60, got the bucks, and they can have one. That's what I reckon it is.
I don't believe that's changed though.
No, well, okay, so the opposite is true. You look at the market for things like MGTCs, early British sort of stamps, skinny wheeled, asthmatic, uncomfortable, unsafe. Have I said enough?
Bill tanks in the back for a rear end.
20, 30 years ago, big market for those things. Today, I reckon that market's minuscule because the people that grew up with them as children, they're dead now. And that's part of the issue.
Okay. On a twist on this topic, right, I think there are cars which are really, to me, that demonstrate they're a true classic, right, that are above the fluctuation of that demographic, right? And I'll give you an example. E-Type Jag.
Well, E-Type, so E-Type came out in 1963 and had a model run, 10, 15 years or something.
It had to be 15, right?
Yeah.
Someone, whatever the number is, I'm sure you guys will tell us.
Yeah, someone will tell us. So in that model run, those guys are still...
Okay, hang on, let's talk about this. 63, right? As a general rule, to lust after a motor car, you're between the ages of 14 and 18, right?
Yeah.
You're thinking first car, my dad needs to buy me the greatest car ever, right? That's all, I need to get hold of the greatest car ever. So in 63, worst case, you're 14 years old. 1963, right, was 58 years ago. Add another 14, you're in your 70s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not in your 60s and 50s, right? So this is the point I'm bringing here is the trend you're talking about is an ongoing trend that's gone through time.
It's a bubble which moves through.
100%.
Yeah.
And I believe the real classic cars that have the longevity in the market are the cars that sit above that. They're the design icons, the performance icons.
911 and E-Types are absolutely in that class.
Ferrari, California. I'm talking...
They're sort of investment class cars.
Look, investment part of it aside, right, the true design classics of motor car history are the ones that seem to rise above.
Yeah.
XK140s. You know what I mean? I'm talking the real super duper stuff, you know?
Yeah. XK140s are almost sort of Art Deco in their design.
Yeah, well, where its beauty supersedes its performance.
I think, I was talking earlier about Romsey Quince, who wrote Sports Girl magazine. I think he's quoted with saying about the E-Type Jaguar, there you go, of Cars and Men.
Last page.
And he's quoted with saying, I think it's him, about the E-Type Jag, but particularly the coupe version. Oh, if only as many a female had such a pretty tail. So, and Enzo Ferrari reckon the release in Geneva in 1963 when they drove that car from Coventry all the way to the Geneva Motor Show, the one mad dash.
Yeah,
As if they do that today, you get a little guy with his flat cap across Europe to the Geneva Motor Show to show their car for the first time.
Yeah.
Enzo Ferrari said, I think, he was furious. He said, I think this is the most beautiful car ever made.
And you know what? It wouldn't have been the coupe.
I'm sure it was the coupe that was at the...
Because I've got to tell you, the 2+2 E-Type?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's like something off the Wacky Races.
Yeah, well, it is.
I'll tell you what it looks like. It looks like one of those Z3 coupes. Remember when those BMW Z3 coupes came out in the 90s, early 2000s?
Well, I had one. Yeah, the M Coupe Z3.
Amazing performance, I accept all that.
This is interesting, because you talk about the Mostro, the SZ.
Yeah.
Okay. They're ugly, they're so ugly,
but they're beautiful.
They're shockingly beautiful.
Yeah.
For me, that Z3 M Coupe, I mean, I've had one. Yeah, okay. Fantastic car.
And everything goes right in there.
Pump car to the back. Oh, man. And that was an accidental car. That's where the engineers go. They had a little secret in the back room, and they go off and they work on it. because that BMW Stroke 6 was one of the world's. In fact, it won International Engine of the Year 3 years in a row. It's just incredibly brilliant.
Whilst you harp on that as a reference point, just remember that V10 out of the M5 and M6 that everyone's car just died.
Oh, yeah.
After 80,000 days, that also won that award.
Did it?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a mistake.
But yeah, I can see that it is an excellent engine, there's no doubt. One of the great sixes of all time.
Yeah, an analog 6, not a digitised computer one. Anyway, they wanted to show that off, and the way to do it was to put, you got a shoebox, which is a roadster, or put a lid on that roadster, and now it doesn't twist anymore.
Yep.
They're an awesome little car. And then I had a Z4 Anchor too.
Oh, did you really? Yeah. Well, at least that was better looking.
Well, that's a stunning looking car.
I don't see many of them around.
No, there was, I think, only a couple of hundred brought into Australia.
Okay.
My wife and I, we had a dirty weekend. We flew across to Sydney, picked up the Z4M coupe that we bought. We blasted up to
Blue Mountains.
The Blue Mountains. We stayed at some fancy pants six-star resort for 3 nights, and then drove it back, put a transport, and flew home.
What
That's the rock star lifestyle.
That only a Claremont real estate agent can live.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, everybody. That's what I've got to say. Thank you.
But yeah, look, talk about values of classic cars.
Okay.
What marks have surprised you that they've gone well?
Well, first, I'm very surprised that P1800s are the money they are, because it's a very uninspiring car to drive.
Sure.
So the ownership experience is not just having an object of art.
Yes.
And they plainly are.
Yep.
It's also the driving experience. That's why these things win. And Lotuses win.
Just give me a sec. Sorry, Shane. I know you're going to watch this, right? But what can I do? Yeah.
And sorry, Shane. You know that car you're restoring?
He also has a lovely 3.68.
He's going to be bitterly disappointed when he gets that 1800 on the road.
It's not the first. No, he drove it before it started restoration.
A supercharger on one of those is a good idea.
A big block would be as well.
Yeah, well, you can't fit one in. But this conversation could go way off the rails. But there's a little V6 that Jaguar made. It was designed by Porsche. Sure. And I think it's an AJ6 engine.
What car did it go?
AJ V6. It went in the S series Jaguar over Batley. Sure. So it's a little V6, quad cam, I think 36 valves or something. Anyway, with variable timing and inlet length and all this good stuff. Weighs nothing. And very durable. So I think Yamaha and Porsche designed it, and then they sold it to Ford, went in the Taurus, and the little MX, little Mazda four-wheel drive thing they had as a 2.5 litre car. Sure. Anyway, that engine, there's a company in the UK that make all the bits to put them into MX-5s. Oh, nice. So an MX-5 would go from, I don't know, I can't think what an NA NX-5, which is basically a Ford Laser engine.
7.5 second car, 0 to 100 normally, I reckon it would be, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I don't know what horsepower they put out, but 100. Well, these things go straight out of the box, slipped in to 270 out of the box.
Wowza, yeah, okay.
And no increase in weight. They're fabulous little things. So now when we're going back with one of those in a P1800, now you're talking with an MX-5 gearbox. Sure.
Any other marks that surprise you?
The Japanese thing has initially surprised me, but now I've got a taste for it. Sure. So you're looking at like Nissan Centrics and early six-cylinder Nissans, the sedans, like the 2600, which is actually a beautifully engineered car. And then there's the early 1800cc Mazdas that Pininfarina designed. Yeah, I do. I look at those and they're exquisite cars. Every bit as beautiful as the early BMWs. And that whole growth in the Japanese market has been the one that's actually taken me by most surprise. But I absolutely understand it. It harks to a time, and also, I think we were prejudiced, we were elitist, and slightly snobby about Japanese cars.
I don't know if that's what it is. How about the fact that it's the only nation that's ever attacked Australia?
I don't think anyone's lying.
But you don't think that would be dwell in there'd be repercussions of that in the purchasing of it historically?
Can I just remind you who made these things?
Yeah, I know, don't worry. But I'm just wondering whether or not that had an impact on the
I think it did. I think prejudice. The RSLs.
Disposability of the Japanese-made products, In the early days, Japanese stuff wasn't considered very...
And people, we're part of the empire, people were buying British, Commonwealth rather. So there was a lot. I'm sure there was a lot of that. But Japanese stuff is, particularly the early stuff, is as long as the bodies didn't rust, the mechanicals are outstanding. Much better design than the English stuff. A lot of early Japanese cars basically copied Italian cars.
Sure.
And I think the Italians are the best designers of cars and cars components, not the best builders of them. And so the Japanese were able to copy, a lot of those early Japanese engines were copies of some BMC stuff and also a lot of Italian stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for me, I'm very surprised. Like, I'm going to talk about Porsche brand, right? I'm going to jump on that bandwagon.
You're going to go to the toilet now if you will.
No, but I'm very surprised that the transaxle Porsches, that's the 924, 944, 968, 928 models. They're the ones with the long hoods.
Yeah.
They're all hatchbacks, if you're not familiar with them.
I had a 968.
Great car.
Oh,
beautifully balanced car. In all reality, the 968 era versus the 911 era, the 968's a better driving car. Okay?
I did a driver training course with Stuart Mazzura up
Really?
at Wanneroo Park.
Yeah, okay.
And Stuart took me around the track.
He's a touring car driver.
Yeah. Anyway, and he came back and he said, this is the best handling Porsche ever made. And he drove it better than me.
Yeah, you'd hope so. He doesn't put a limit. He probably doesn't sell houses as well as
bloody Stuart Mazzura is useless. Anyway.
But so I'm very surprised that those cars have been so slow to get on the Porsche, especially limited production cars, right? That haven't gone for the value. So I still think they're cheap to get into, right?
Yeah, I've been watching a Silver Rose, the 944 Turbo. There's one in Perth.
I filmed it last week. I've actually got a video coming out of it next week. So
beautiful car, slightly challenging colour, but
look, it's the colour of the era. So if you're going to buy, look, I think there's a lot of value in Porsches that are unique colours. I think that adds value to the car. Especially in 10 or 15 years, right?
Yeah.
If as long as it's not black, silver, white, right? Or
I dig white Porsches, by the way.
yeah, I quite like too. Like
my favourite colour is white.
But I would say that I'm very surprised those cars are so slow on the uptake of the classic car.
Yeah, I think there was fear around the mechanicals because basically you start to think Audi, VW, van engines, and I reckon there's some fear around the longevity and the strength of the mechanicals. Also perceived complication, but it's not that complicated.
Look, there's people are still driving the 944 Porsche Cup cars as track cars that were built back in the mid 80s, right?
Yeah.
They're still going strong, getting used in events today, right? With minimal rebuilds. That you buy a Porsche because it is a long-lasting sports car. Okay, you can.
By the way, you don't buy a Porsche because it's long-lasting. You buy the damn things because you love them.
What I'm going to say that I mean is you would have one. One part of the appeal is the fact that you can run the neck out of it and then drive to work on Monday, right? And there are very few sports cars you can do that too for their eras of whichever era you choose.
Did you have a look at that high mileage red 944 that was at the Porsche Concours Day?
Yep.
Oh, and that had done 260,000 kilometres. And if you had to really look at it to find anywhere in the interior.
It's a loved car.
Oh, it's magnificent.
Yeah, the owner clearly is very proud of the car, and there's always that saying, like, very few Porsche people keep their cars low case.
They're such great driving cars.
Yeah. But anyway, but that aside, right? The brands that have really surprised me in their increase in value, classics, are the Datsuns.
Your 240Zs
gone off the chain.
Nuts.
Right? Now, pretty good car.
They're a great car.
Pretty good driving car.
Yeah, it's a copy of a Mercedes-Benz motor. Overhead cam, first overhead cam Mercedes-Benz engine, which is not a particularly inspiring engine when Mercedes-Benz built it. And
ton of torque, like good driving cars, right?
Albert Goertz, which is, you get more German than that. He designed the body. And I think they bought an Austin Healey 3000, they bought an E-Type Jag and a Corvette, and they stripped them down and they had a look at all the components, and then I think Goertz said, put the whole thing together. Visionary car.
But in the last 5 years, they've got to have tripled in value, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's firstly because they rusted easily, so there's not a great deal of them around.
Yep.
And they're incredibly sexy looking car. I have one in a heartbeat.
Hey, look, I had a bit of experience with them when I was young, right? And I think they're pretty good cars. I don't think they're very great cars to drive. Okay, but I haven't driven a well-sorted one, so if anyone out there's got one, get in touch with me. I'd love to do a video with you, right? I think they got longer and uglier as they got older.
Oh, definitely.
You know, you go 260, 280, 300, and it's just, even the 2+2, you know. It's
Look
just,
at the E-Type. You know, as cars get, they evolve.
they soften.
The purest thought is always the first thought.
Look at the first Viper compared to where the Viper ended up. Yeah, the thing didn't even have an outside door handle.
Yeah.
Well, windows, like a speedster, basically.
I love the Viper coupes. Man, I don't want to
Got distracted on the Viper, sorry.
No,
Let's talk about electric cars.
Look, do I like fridges? Yeah, I think fridges are awesome. They have a great... I'm a caveman. I like eating meat and I like burning things. And in this instance, it's petrol. And I love the power delivery of a petrol engine.
Sure.
You sort of have to row it.
Yeah,
it's like, you know, you have to run it through its gears. It has a period in its duration where it's on cam or off cam.
Sure.
And its foibles, the things that it's not particularly good at, become endearing. Electric cars are too damn good. And I go, so what's left?
Okay. I'll tell you my opinion on it.
Okay. Now, this is so off and so... please forgive me before I begin. Okay, so what is better, a robotic doll for a wife or a real wife? Because for me, electric cars fall into the category of robotic doll wives. And I'm kind of like, that's not what I want.
Sure. I think they have a place, right? And that
No question.
And that place is convenience.
Yeah.
Like the analogy you gave, the robotic doll wife would be okay for cleaning the home. Okay. You see where I'm going here?
Oh, no, there's no question.
So me getting driven to work my electric car whilst reading the paper,
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Good thing. Good thing. In fact, you won't even need a driver. Because that's what it's going to go.
This is my point.
And that whole concept of ownership won't exist either. They'll just be...
Oh no, I'm not
Dotted.
sitting in a car someone else did.
Well, you will.
No, I don't have
They'll be dotted around the streets.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
And this thing will arrive at the door.
I'm getting my own.
And you've already paid for it on your phone, and it'll take you where you want. So that's what's going to happen.
Of course it will.
It's all about, for me, falling in love. That's it.
Which is what we're about here in this podcast.
Totally.
And it's the reason I brought it up.
If you're sticking with us this long, you've got to be part of it. Okay. So one of my mates owns it. Three of my friends have Teslas, and I do for drives.
Still friends?
Yeah, still my friends.
Yeah.
And one of them is into citrus, and one of them has he sold his 72 Porsche Targa, and he sold that. And he's just got the Tesla, and he reckons it's brilliant because he's a tech head, and they do wacko things like remember where bumps are, and then tell all the other Teslas in the neighbourhood. All that really clever stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But my other mate, who's a dead set car nut, he's getting out of his Tesla. He said it's kind of soulless.
Sure.
And so, for me, cars are part of my life as a hobby. It's an interest. I read about them. We obviously talk about it. And we go to car shows and we look at them. We hang out with people who dig cars. And I just can't... And when you said you don't have the supercars should be allowed to come to...
What are those Teslas doing?
What are those Teslas doing there?
Paul, Derek, what are they doing there?
We've got enough fridges.
Yeah, come on, what are you doing there? I don't believe you watch anyway.
I want to pull... You know what I want to do? I want to just get a little chisel off that Tesla badge and put Dyson.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do.
Or Calvin now.
Calvin, Dyson, I don't care. Yeah.
No, but I would have to say, I brought this... I want to talk about this topic on purpose, right? The cars, I agree, are too good.
Yes.
They lack flaws.
Yes.
Which create character. Okay.
So flaws require adaptation from the individual. That's art. And also they're not obvious.
Do you know what really makes me sick?
Well, lots of things.
Resto-minded cars with electric conversion.
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing, people? Someone sent me something on social media the other day of a 914 Porsche with electric motor. But what response do you want from me? Seriously.
So now what do you have to do? Put a CD? No, put your thumb drive in to get a soundtrack out of these things?
What is going on?
You know, I love eating meat, I like burning things. and for me, the petrol engine is about that. It's a little campfire going on in front of me that I can be involved with.
What do you put electric motors in these old cars for? That you got?
Not for me. I don't know.
Anyway, on that note, thank you for watching, everyone. We're going to continue this conversation. We'll give you our undivided opinions, justified or not, for the future.
And I'll show you a real shed next week.
Thank you very much.
See you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.